Good morning, it's Brigid with Transition Life Coaching, and welcome to Morning Coffee with Brigid. This live stream is one I'm looking at it now. I know I passed the 10-day mark on this because it's something I started probably around, I want to say it was around May 1st or 2nd. I have to go back and look at what's in the archive. But this has been a little bit, again, it's always a small group that gets on, but, usually I will have some people who are watching this regularly every day. And thank you to those of you who do, and thank you to those of you who catch this afterward, because 6:30 a.m. is, some people, all depending on your life and your lifestyle, some people are getting ready for work right now. Some people, and good morning. Morning, Sam. This is this day where where in the mornings I get up and people are doing different things. They are either getting ready for work right now. Some people, like if you're in the UK, this is probably late in the day. You're probably closer to lunchtime at this point. If you were here, and some people may not even be out of bed yet, because depending on what you do. But if people have work to go to, generally they're up. For me, because of the type of work that I do, I don't necessarily, until I started doing these, I don't feel like I necessarily have to be up at this time of day. But in any case, I am up right now. Today was actually really nice. I had a really nice sunrise this morning, and it was really pretty. And because we haven't had that in a few days. If you've noticed with some of the videos I've had that I look like the room seems really, really dark, it's because it's been either rainy or really foggy. And today happens to be my day. Tuesday's actually my off day. So my sister and I usually go walking. We're both dealing with stuff with our mother, and she's not really been particularly well right now. So, and my sister's been taken to her appointments, and I guess, there's just different things that are going on there. So I think that's just sort of it's just good just to get out and walk. And we've been very lucky that the Tuesdays have actually been really good days to go walking here. And I woke up to 3 deer in the yard this morning. And they were all, I've noticed that I don't know if this is a mating thing, but there's kind of a competitiveness going on, because there were 3 of them, and 2 of them were kind of circling each other and doing, sniffing at each other. And then one took off. And I saw that actually in my yard too. I had seen 2 of them get up and hooves or whatever against each other. So there seems to be, this is spring, and there is this whole thing. There was no males around. It was just these 3 females. So interesting start to the morning. The other interesting thing, last night was a night that was full of dreams. I think I woke up around 1:30 with the first dream, and then I had 2 more as I was waking up this morning, or they could have been the same dream for all I know, but sometimes it's hard to tell where one thing stops and one starts. But there was one thing I did want to point out. Again, I don't want to turn these into a Brigid's dream analysis, because I've already sat down and done the analysis. And actually, even as I woke up, the meaning of the dream symbols just kind of came into my mind right off the bat. But an interesting thing about dream journaling for people who do it, or people who I ask, or clients, I say, yeah, keep a dream journal. A lot of us, we live in a world now where people don't like to write by hand. Whenever I give examinations, when I used to teach in person, and students had to write, everybody was always going like this after the first question, and I'm like, really? You only gotten on question 3, and it wasn't like they were long essays, so why are you? Yeah. Anyway, but that seems to be a thing, because people are not taught to handwrite these days, and neurologically there is something about the hand to brain connection that helps you retain memory. Okay, that helps you remember. That's why people want you to take notes. When I have students sit there with their phone and just take a picture of the blackboard or the whiteboard or whatever I'm using, I'm like, well, that's not really good enough. What I'm writing on the board is just a shorthand. You need to make your own shorthand that makes sense to you if you're going to pay, to absorb this. But when it comes to dream journaling, I feel that writing is really, really important. And the reason is that because it's not just about the words of the dream, okay? Because obviously when you have a dream, the content of the dream you could put in a text document or you could put it in a journal, right? So you say, well, it doesn't matter, right? I've got the words down of the dream. I've articulated what the dream is. The thing is, dream analysts will tell you that what's also important besides your, besides the content of the dream, besides the actual things, it's also what you're writing down and how you're writing it down. So I would just have an example here because I wrote it down this morning, and as you can see, at some point I left a gap. Okay, now I don't know why I did that. That wasn't conscious. As I was writing, I just all of a sudden, it's like the pen shifted down a line, and I thought I was on the same line, but I was not. And so, as much as the content of the dream was important, and all my dreams lately, I've been talking a lot about liminality, and that is really my topic for today, and kind of the reason that I bring it up. Because literally, they're all dreams about waiting for a change to happen, and it's really interesting because that's literally, like I think I mentioned a couple live streams ago about the wedding dream that I had. Weddings they're endings of some kind, in dream symbolism, and it's interesting because as I go through these dreams, and of course I'm using the dream cards. One card that came up today, I actually had, resolving, wounding, and releasing. Okay, so the dream that I had last night is a dream that's trying to push towards release. And it was always interesting, because whenever I have dreams where there's undead in the dreams, in this particular one there was, but I was in a space where it was like a massage parlor, and I was like, people were there I was getting somewhere, I was waiting to have something done. And somebody was showing me like these booties for the feet, like that you would do, like if you ever had a paraffin treatment on your feet or something like that. It's not quite the same things because they usually wrap them in these things. But if you're going to have like a foot massage, it would have been something that would have been for that. So the feet, of course, are a significant symbol because the feet have to do with your grounding and your root and probably with family or ancestral stuff. Okay, when the feet come up in a dream. So I woke up, that was what occurred to me. I said, okay, this is, and members of my family appeared in this dream. My sister was in this dream. My aunt was in this dream. And so I was like, okay, this is family stuff like waiting to resolve itself. Okay. But in this room, it was like people were doing massages. But I realized when I woke up that it was the same, when I told you if you remember the Ola Nala dream that I talked about from the other night where it was like I was going into a wedding to Nala, whoever Nala is. Of course, Nala is a feminine name, but the Nala in the dream was masculine. But it's usually a word for queen or a word for successful woman, okay, in that respect. And Ola is this sort of blonde Eastern European woman I was on the bus with, or at least she sounded Eastern European to me. And Eastern European is actually about half my ancestry, so that's why. And the name means like ancestor or relic or something old or ancestral. So it's interesting how that comes about. But so again, a lot of this ties back to my mother, and as I mentioned at the beginning, my mother's quite ill, so I feel like there's a lot going on here that may be tied to her and what's happening to her. But the gap was interesting because it was a point in a dream. So yeah, oh my God, right? Yeah, it's crazy, isn't it? And my sister's been my sister, by the way, who is like a hardcore atheist. She's Chiron and Pisces. Like she has no use for religion of any type or spirituality whatsoever. Also, but she's incredibly psychic too. So she has these dreams too, and when we go walking, she likes to talk. She'll be like, "All right, I have this, like what's happening? Why did I dream about this? Does this mean I'm going to die? Does this mean It's kind of funny when we kind of get in these conversations, and I'm like, no, it doesn't mean you're going to die. It means that you are your own soul, in spite of the fact that you think that there's nothing to it. And well, I shouldn't say that because your own soul doesn't necessarily have anything to do with any kind of external religion. It's just it's a part of the psyche that we try to pretend is just chemical or doesn't exist or whatever, but it's there. And I said every time I dream, it really proves to me that archetypal psychology has something to it, whether it understands it perfectly or not, because I don't think anybody ever can. It definitely it provides guide signs, right? But the room I was getting the massage in was the same room that I think I'd mentioned. There was like a cocktail hour where 2 hours before the wedding, it was in the same exact room. And it's weird because it was like a room that was like glass and metal and like white. So to me, it's like a very sanitized room. And so that to me is the room of the intellect, the way in which the mind is trying to entertain itself, I guess, or try to calm itself before a change. But in this particular dream, it was like there were undead things like in the waiting room. And the one masseuse who was there, you could tell she was very agitated. And actually it was like there was blood around the edges kind of a thing. So, and I woke up feeling very uneasy from that dream. But to me, these are all dreams of liminality. It's that scary spot of being in the middle and not knowing whether the things you thought you got rid of were dead and buried or going to come back. And then also, the looking forward part. In the dream journal where I made the gap, it was another part of a dream where it's like it was like a place that was a combination of the first library that I ever worked, looking the way it did, but it was also a restaurant. It was one that we went to all the time as a kid. So again, there's all of this past symbolism kind of coming together. And my sister and I were there, like eating, but there was like a waiter who came and took my order, but he knew already what I wanted. And when he read it back to me, I was like, oh yeah, that was what I was going to order. So he went away, but then it was like I had to go look for what I was getting, but then when I got there, what I got for my order was not what I had ordered. I was like, what the heck is this? Like it wasn't something I would have chosen. But then there was like an old man who appeared, and he was like the cook or whatever, and he said, oh, let me take that. That was not meant for you. That's a mistake. I will get you the right thing. That's the point in my dream journal where I had a gap. And that's where the gap is. The gap between the thing you weren't supposed to be and the thing that you're supposed to be, but you're still waiting for it. And I think I know specifically what that has to do with, because, I was given something that I thought was the right thing and it wasn't the right thing. But it's almost like the right thing is now, but you're just waiting for it. And a lot of these dreams too, there's like a crowd of people trying to get on a boat or a ship, or they're waiting, and it's like, and the ship is kind of small. So it's almost like they're saying you have to cut line because you must be on the ship. So I have a lot of, there's a lot that's going on there. And that's why I tell people, pay attention to your dreams. A lot of people just kind of fluff it off. And some people do have trouble remembering them, especially if you have very, very busy and stressful days, and maybe if you sleep very deeply, you might not remember your dreams, and a lot of people don't. But once you start doing that, there is a narrative going on that's trying to tell you what's trying to resolve itself inside. And like I said, these dreams of waiting are dreams of liminality. They're of being on the edge between two states. I know we had somebody on yesterday who had mentioned being on the cusp of something, and I was like, yeah, because my first thought when she said it kind of threw me off, because I think cusp with astrology, right? Because you're between two signs. But I'm like, oh no, she's really talking about being between two states. And I think a lot of people are feeling that now, that they are somehow in the middle between two things. Now, one of the main cards here, I may have posted this card, an image of this card already on this page, because I posted several from the dream cards, and I just don't remember what I've posted. But this is the card of wounding. And that was one of the images I had when I pulled dream cards on this. And I like what it says on here, because this has a lot to do, I feel like it almost sums up in some ways what kind of things I'm trying to work on with people in particular. It's the card of wounding, and it says, wounding is when integrity is weakened through aggressive action. We do not avoid wounding. We participate in it as part of our existence. Accept the wounding as a price you pay for values. You are not here to always win or to be safe, but to journey through life with all of its dangers. All wounding is a battle for control. Trying to control, we ourselves are controlled. To be wounded is to wound. What we do not want done to us, we do to others. Okay, so that the fact, I think there's a lot today, and I see it in certain types of things. When people are hurting deeply, there's the sense there. On the one hand, yes, if you have been deeply wounded by someone, that is, that person, obviously, you need to recover that wound. You need sympathy for that wound. It's so forth. But on a broader scale, we need to recognize that wounding is always going to happen. A lot of times, I feel like there's a perception that somehow, wounding, let me not go in that direction. Wounding can be fair or it can be unfair. And there is a lot of unfair wounding. There's also a lot of unconscious wounding that goes on as well. A lot of people, like I said, life can be wonderful, beautiful, and it's also dangerous. When we see images of Mother Kali, or we see these images of the mother who both creates and destroys, what you're looking at there is the idea of the life is both a horror and a wonder at the same time. everything about life, even at the most basic level. The very fact that we have to kill other things to live. And like I said, even if you live a plant-based kind of thing, plants are living things, pretty resilient living things, as I mentioned yesterday, but plants are living things. And so we all have to kill something that's alive in order to not die. It's like it seems almost grotesque in a way. If you really think about it in those terms, like if you really take the attitude that all death is bad. And that's why, I know there's people who are vegetarian who are very, very concerned about, animal rights and not eating animals, but we do eat animals. That's the way our system is designed. Now, some people are not designed. I don't know what the distinctions are. Some people say it has to do with blood type. I think some of it's cultural. Whatever it is, I think our bodies all need different things. Some people everybody I think needs a certain amount of protein in their diet. People who tend to be vegetarian or vegan get it from sources that are plant sources rather than animal sources. I personally am not a vegan or a vegetarian. I never could be because my body does not tolerate that. My body does not tolerate that. My tongue does not tolerate that. So it's sometimes, and again, so I'm not critical of a vegetarian lifestyle because obviously for some people that's the lifestyle that they feel healthiest and that they want to do. And I say, well, look, you do what works for you. But when people say, well, eating a meat eating lifestyle is bad because, and people will talk about planetary impact and so forth, but there's a lot of factors in planetary impact, but we have always been. I think the real issue with animals is the way that we treat animals, the way that they do factory farming and things like that. Like that to me, that's the issue, rather than the fact that we eat meat. It's the inhumane. It's funny we use the word humane, right? But the inhumane way in which animals are treated. That's an issue for me too. One of the things I like about living out here is that I can get meats and things that are locally processed and locally made from the farms around here. And so it's not like you're always buying the prepackaged meat from the store and depending on where it might have come from or what the conditions might have been. So anyway, yeah, there's the being on the edge. It's a very tense kind of a place. This is kind of getting back to my theme here. I know I kind of switched gears there really quick, but I feel like a lot of us are just waiting to wait. Like we're waiting for something, and I don't know if that's a feeling that you have. I feel because I feel like yes, this is going on in my life, but I also see that this is going on in the lives of friends, other family members, other people. Potentially some clients. I don't like to talk about what I discuss with my clients, but there's this overall vibe of waiting for something. And so the question is, well, what do we do in the space? Because look, I had gotten the patience card the other day, right? It's like we're waiting for something. And one of the things I wanted to do today was I have my own deck. Now, I haven't talked about this deck in a long time. There was a point at which some people said they were interested in me producing it, and I had done a Kickstarter, but it really hadn't gone anywhere, and I said, okay, the time was obviously not good for that. But I have my own deck that I call the Antarian Oracle, and I'm actually, like I said, I think I've mentioned that I'm making a new deck for myself, but this was a deck I made over COVID when I was stuck at home. And I was working, but I would be online doing my day job. And then when things were quiet or settled down from that, I would be doing artwork or I would be doing writing. That's why I produced 2 books during COVID and an Oracle deck. So I was quite productive. I'm quite productive at home. I don't think I did nearly, when they insisted everybody go back to the office, I said, well, I don't do nearly as much work here because, I don't know, I just couldn't do things. I got all of their work done. But instead of just sitting around all day waiting for people to come in and talk about how much they hated their job or hated this thing or another thing, I actually got work done. So I'm against the brigaders who would say like, oh well, now that COVID's over, it's absolutely necessary that everybody go back to the office. I'm like, not really. Some people may miss the camaraderie or being together. Oh, good morning, JR. So the people might miss the camaraderie of being together, but I think a lot of us want to be at home. You know what I mean? We want to be, some of us like do better working on our own, alone. Some people like to be in groups. So yeah, so it's interesting. So anyway, I made this Oracle deck while I was during COVID, and it's funny, I don't even use it all that much, but it is actually a pretty accurate deck. So I'm going to do our regular reading, but I'm going to pull from this one today too and see what it says. And I'll show you the cards that I have here. And and that's really interesting because this card that came up is literally the one that I thought was going to come up today. So there we go, as the outcome. And I do have my interpretation, because here's the thing about Oracle decks. I think that a lot of times when you have a reader, especially a reader who's online, there's two ways that you can read. You can look at the image on the card and you can just try to interpret from looking at the card. You can also read from the book that comes with it. Now, some people will say, people prefer one method or the other. Some people say, no, I'd rather look at the image and get my own impression. I know a lot of readers who are really, really good doing that. And I do that myself sometimes. Sometimes even regardless of what the meaning is, I look at it and I say, no, I feel like this is what I'm getting off of it. But some oracles, I find that actually reading what the book says does actually provide a good amount of information. And for me, it's weird because, like I said, I made this deck and I sort of had a download of what all the meanings were of the cards. I mean, literally, I sat there for like 2 or 3 hours and just wrote what put them all in order, took all my paintings, put them in order, numbered them, and and when I was done, I was like, wow, did I just do that in like 3 hours? Like, how did that happen? But that's the kind of thing it is. So our first card here is called Graveyard, and this is what the card means. It says, take some time to appreciate the beauty of death and loss. If things did not move and change, everything would stagnate and go stale. We have a hard time letting go of the past, but sometimes we don't need to do that. Put your past experience and losses in correct perspective and move forward with gratitude. The blue planet at the top is like Uranus or Neptune, representing the unexpected and the unreal, two qualities of death. And I talk about it kind of being between Capricorn and Aquarius, which, yeah, we are still kind of on that edge right now with Pluto, right? Because Pluto's kind of retrograding right now. It's going to go back to Capricorn and then it's going to go back to Aquarius again. So kind of interesting that that's the first one that comes up. And so that's really the root here, is the idea of dealing with death and loss. So, okay, so the aspect of that would be that we are, as we're changing, as we're getting ready to move on to the next thing, we often have to make sure that we have resolved whatever it is we've come from. And sometimes we're kind of stuck in between when we don't have that resolution. Now, sometimes it's not a matter of us thinking through the resolution. It has to sort of naturally, organically come to its own close. So that seems to be what the main issue is here. We have the landing card. Okay, this is the second one. Now, landing has to do, and that's interesting because landing has to do with the things that we do to escape, the kinds of mental, imaginative things that we do to pull ourselves out of a space where we are, that might be stressful for us. We distract ourselves, or we escape into our imagination, into a book, into a movie, into something. We try to escape from it. Which, as the meaning of this card points out, is that's fine. You actually can. There's nothing wrong with doing that. But it's just saying, as long as you know how to land, as long as you know how to put your feet on the ground when you have to, when the point comes when you need to put your feet on the ground and make decisions, because oftentimes being kind of in that airy kind of a space may not be the place to be when you need to make a solid decision about something. So it's a matter of finding that balance. Now, the factor to be considered, is we have interdimensional snowstorm, okay? And really, it's hard to see on this one, but really what this was like a purple sky with almost like blue-black snowflakes. It was weird. All these were images that appeared in my head. And the interdimensional snowstorm has to do with when we don't know what the heck's going on. It's like you're being blinded by a blizzard. There's stuff going on, and you may feel even frozen out of certain things, but you can't really, that there's a destination, but right now it's really unclear as to what it is. So that's a factor. So a lot of times we do things to distract ourselves. So it's weird. This kind of almost relates back to that dream that I had in terms of the themes. So the advice it's giving is the Agate River of Antares. And this is one of the first images that I saw. And it was like literally almost like it was on the star of Antares, and it was like this was like a red river, like a molten river of agate, is the way that I saw this in my head. And what this card means is, I said Antares is a red giant star that is now probably a black hole. This represents active energy. A situation is heating up, and you may find yourself having to move swiftly. Remember to keep your temper in check and don't act in haste. So this is similar energetically to the Eight of Wands, Knight of Swords, or Mars in Aries. Okay, and Mars has been in Aries, so it's interesting. So this is the idea of it's time to move, and we may still kind of be in a space where we're not really sure what we're doing. So I think it's saying, or so far, it's like, okay, right now there's this need to, your Mars is conjunct Aries. Oh, wow. Mars conjunct Antares. That's pretty powerful fire energy right there. I mean, you've got, which has great potential. I mean, when you, especially in terms of creativity and in being able to do things, when you have all that energy, but it's also that warrior energy too, that energy of, maintaining your boundaries and standing your ground with things and everything. So that's really interesting. And Antares is always, like, the Scorpio constellation seems like right outside my window all the time, so I always seem to see Antares when I wake up in the morning, which is interesting. But yeah, so there's this idea of swift movement that comes in here. And so I think it's idea of right now, while things are unclear, you need to be resolving old business. That's what I think this is about. And the 333, yes, there you go. It's so there's this resolution that's coming up with this. So while things are not clear up the past. Worry about what you do know. Worry about what you can sort out for yourself, and then, because this is all in preparation, because when the new comes, you don't want to still have to be going back resolving the old. And when I say that, I mean, resolution may not always have to do with like, oh, I have to solve all my major life traumas like now. I don't think that's necessarily what it means. I think what it means is more like you may have just certain things going on that are kind of left undone or unfinished. They could be small things. Maybe there's something that you've had to get to, but you keep saying, I can wait. Don't wait on those things. Like that's where you might want to focus your energy, is on the cleanup, and then get ready to move ahead. And then the outcome card this is the one I expected, was called The View from a Hill. Now, A View from a Hill is interesting, because this was like standing like, again, I'm not the world's best artist, but it's like I was standing on this, like, it's like being on this top of this hill where there's this like castle or tower, and looking down on gold trees. They're trees in a violet sky, and they're gold trees. There's something, I'd seen something once on one of these shows that I watch about time slips and interdimensionality, and people talk about the interdimensional space there. This is something I've watched since I made this deck, but there's people who have talked about walking in interdimensional spaces that have violet skies, or that are very bright violet. And that's what I seem to see all the time. So I don't know if that's what that is or not, but I just find it interesting that that's the way it's been characterized. But View from a Hill, I know what that card means very well, because the idea is that you may be at a point where, in spite of what's cloudy over here, you can see what's happening. And so it's almost like, okay, if you practice Kabbalah, it's like Tiferet. You're on the mountaintop. You can look down. You're Moses on the mountaintop, right? You can look down and you can see everything, right? But that said, so you're looking ahead and you're like, okay, I can see in the distance, but what you cannot see from that perspective is the actual path itself, and what twists and turns the path may take. It's a little bit like being in a labyrinth, where you go in a certain direction, and if you go into one of the regular formal labyrinths that they have, like in churches and monasteries. I was up one recently at Columkille in Pennsylvania. There's these great labyrinths. When you walk into a sort of one of the traditional laid out labyrinths, you're walking, and as you're walking in, the center is almost like right there. Like it almost looks like you could just step into it, like it's right there. But the path always takes you way the heck over here and way the heck over here before you get there. Okay, so there's twists and turns in the path before you see exactly where it is that you're going. And that's what View from a Hill to me is about. It's like, yes, you can see the big picture. You may now be in a place to see the big picture, but you still don't know what the path is. And that's the thing. And the path, so basically it says things may not turn out or happen in the way you expect they're going to, but you will be taken in the right direction. It's just that you know what you're aiming for now. You know you can see over the trees. You can see the forest for the trees, right? You can see over the trees, but you don't know quite how you're getting there yet. Okay, so that seems to be the thing. But whatever's happening, you're going to get on the road and you're going to have to move fast. Events or situations are going to bring that about. Now, if we do our little psychological reading today with the Osho Zen deck. So let's see what Bate needs to know. So anyway, so that was my deck. You can let me know what you think of it if you think that it's worthwhile or that it's meaningful. But I do use it, and I said I should really use it more than I do because it is quite an accurate deck in a lot of ways. Okay, so here's our deck for today. And yeah, what's our central theme here? What I just read about from the wounding card about all wounding is a form of trying to get control, right? And control, which is the King of Clouds, is actually our first card. And it's weird because the dream I was talking about last night where it was sort of this room, and it was the same room where there was like a cocktail party going on and where there's like massage going on, like there's healing going on, right? Or relaxation. We think about going to a spa to relax, right? But it's all in this kind of metallic kind of glass room with all these edges. It's like very, very, very much kind of this kind of energy, this sword energy, because it's all mental. It's all the mental ways in which we try to relax or distract ourselves. But when what actually needs to happen on some kind of a deeper, probably more catonic level. But yeah, so this is the thing. And when this comes up in the center, the central theme is yielding control. And in fact, your inner feeling card is letting go. Okay, it's the Eight of Cups, it's letting go. And this is something, and the fact that this is the internal card means that for people, this is something that is happening. This is a process of letting go, of eventually getting away from the mind space that tries to tangle things up and tie us to what we really need to let go of, where we keep revisiting it and revisiting it and revisiting it and bringing it up again. And again, we're not always doing this consciously. Sometimes our minds are kind of in a habit or a pattern of doing this kind of stuff to us. Now, what's interesting is the external feeling of which we are aware is the Lover's card, okay? Now, in this deck, I mean, in traditional tarot, Lovers has to do with choices that we have to make. But that's interesting, too, because that may have a lot to do with the path that we're choosing. What is the path that we are choosing? And, because the Lovers would have to do with the idea that, you have choices to make. But I think in this particular deck, it really does seem to have more to do with love. And it has to do with love on a deeper level. It has to do with love that is, it may be about physical love, but it's also the love that is deeper, that creates something that is more lasting, or even the kind of love that one might have for a child or for a good friend or for somebody. You know what I mean? It doesn't always have to be romantic love, is what I'm saying. But there's this idea of love here too, and I feel like I feel like it's saying like that the path forward is love. Okay. That's what I think the message is there. The path forward is love. And what we're letting go of, this is King of Swords. If you do tarot, this is a very cold energy. This is an energy of, just the facts, total emotional detachment. At its worst, King of Swords also has some very good aspects to it as well. I don't want to make it seem that it's all negative, but certainly in the sense that we try to be decisive with our thoughts. And so this is kind of like clearing thoughts out of the way and letting the heart space open up and getting that involved. And the card that we have here is Totality. Okay, this is the advice card. Now, this is the Five of Wands. Now, this might be an interesting interpretation for people who know the Five of Wands, because that's usually a card of seeing people kind of with play fighting with sticks, right? It's the card of conflict and competition. But here, instead, what you're seeing is two people on a trapeze, and one is grabbing the other. Like they're two people like coming together to connect. But there has to be a lot of focus for this. So this is more not about working in conflict, but rather about totality, being totally focused on what you're doing and working with the energy rather than fighting with it, So, yeah. Good morning, Melissa. So what we're seeing here is, this totality, what you are, you need to, rather than worrying about trying to control everything. Totality is not about looking at other people as your competition, but rather saying where do we collaborate rather than compete with each other. You know, how do you act with love? How do you try to help and support each other? And it's weird because that again, for myself and for other people who I have either been just talking to in a friendly level or just people I've been working with, that seems to be a theme. This thing of choosing love and choosing to be supportive rather than just then kind of turning it into a game of where we're worried about that wounding all the time. If you've joined late, I was talking a lot about wounding before, and a way that, as the card says from the dream deck, it says, we do not avoid wounding. We participate as part of our existence. Accept it as a price you pay for values. You are not here to always win or to be safe, but to journey through life with all of its dangers. So that's something that's going to go on. To yield control is to acknowledge that this is a normal part of life, and instead you're playing the game rather than turning it into a battle. Where our pride or our identity or some aspect of us ends up getting in the way, and it's usually our minds that get in the way. So this is about total focus, total energetic focus on what it is that is important, what's happening in the heart space. And the outcome card is aloneness, okay? So this is the hermit, and so this is the thing, this is the going within, right? This is the finding the light within yourself. Because ultimately, you cannot love others in any sense, whether you're talking about a romantic situation or whether you are just talking about, caring for your friends, people, the environment. Like, you can't do that level of caring unless you know how to be a light unto yourself. So the aloneness card is it's that hermit energy. And it's funny too, because in the dream I had the gap there, that's where there was the old man. That's the Senex archetype, right? And this is another version of the Senex archetype. It's Virgo energy, but it's about the way in which we turn within, and when we have our own inner light, when we are happy with ourselves, when we love ourselves, then that's the way in which the space in which we can work with others, and we can be there for others in that way. So. We're there for ourselves. There used to be a thing. I remember when I was growing up, the church I went to. I remember for years our church was in like a gymnasium or something in a Catholic school. I guess because they had to build a new church. I guess the original church. I don't know. I don't remember what was wrong with it. But and the new church has been there for a long time. But they had I remember they would have these banners. They have these felt banners. Okay. I don't know if they still do this. Probably they do. But somebody had done a thing that had said, what was it? Something like Christ first, others second, yourself last. And I'm here to tell you, and yes, I'm going to be opinionated and authoritative on this, that is actually wrong. You are not, if people believe in Christ and where they put Christ in their life is totally up to them. But the idea that you have to always put others before yourself is, I understand it from the point of view of wanting to treat others with respect. I understand it from the point of view of wanting to act in a caring way. I mean, that is, in theory, that is what Christianity is supposed to be about. I don't know that it frequently is, but it's supposed to be about this idea of, loving your neighbor as yourself, right? The point that I'm saying is, no, you actually have to put yourself first, because if you don't love yourself first, then you're not capable of loving everybody else. You're just going to project everything you hate about yourself on everybody else. So working on that self-image is not selfish. That's actually, that's the good kind of self-care. That's the self-care that says, I'm doing this because I want not only do I want to accept and love myself, but then if I accept and love myself, then I can accept and love other people. Okay, so that's really what it comes down to. I frequently will point people to the Alan Watts lecture, You Cannot Improve Yourself. And what that gets down to, it's really about, we're always saying, yes, I do this wrong, and I do that wrong, and that wrong, and how can I change? How can I be better? And he says, well, why do you want to be better? He says, the reason you want to be better is the reason that you're not. I mean, it's this idea that if you want to be better, you just have to accept yourself and everything kind of as it is. And that's from the perspective from which you can actually change how you see things, and therefore by association, because everything is connected, that's how you start changing others. That's why people talk about lighting a single candle in the darkness, right? The idea, you say, oh, well, it's just one, but it's like, yeah, but as people move their attitudes towards that and away from this kind of self-loathing where they feel like they feel guilty about not putting other people first, and this is about healthy boundaries too, right? You feel guilty about not putting people first, but really, you do that because in a convoluted way, you are putting people first by doing that. Because if you care for yourself and care about yourself, then you can look at people from that perspective. If you are constantly in a state of confusion and you don't like yourself and you feel wounded, which probably is most of us, right? I feel that way most of the time, in some fashion, even if we don't always think that way. Then that's what ends up being what we see in other people, and that's where we get into conflict. So anyway, just some things to think about today. So thank you, guys, so much for joining me. I was very happy to always have some people who can join me for these early morning live streams. If you want to catch the whole thing, if you missed part of it, it will be available here on Instagram on my profile page, and I'm also going to upload it to YouTube this morning before I go out for my walk. So so I hope all of you have a fantastic day. It's a Tuesday, so the time does seem to be flying. I mean, it's already May 14th, and I'm like, boy, May is a pretty long month. It's going along, pretty good clip here. So anyway, I hope you all have a wonderful rest of the week. If you're here tomorrow morning, I will see you tomorrow morning. And so take care. I'll talk to you soon. Okay. Thank you. Okay, you're welcome. Have a good day too. Take care. Okay. Oh, and you're welcome. I'm having a lot of fun doing these because like I said, I already talked to myself in the morning. I might as well talk to somebody else. So I'm glad you enjoyed. Take care now. Bye-bye.